everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we transitioned so smoothly from season mode to off-season mode. I barely even noticed. Here we are, Tony. The season is over. The celebration hasn't even happened yet, but we got to talk about roster changes.
Roster changes indeed. Quinshon Judkins, Ohio State junior running back, declares for the NFL draft, Tom, and I'm right there with you. Like the season ends, and it's like, finally, a break. A couple of days, and then you realize, well, no, because there's coaching speculation, there's NFL draft declarations. Fortunately, this team is so old that there's only a few NFL declarations that we have to worry about, and this one was not unexpected, although we saw last year there's precedence for a junior running back who could leave for the NFL to come back for a senior season. TreVeyon Henderson did that, as did 27 other Buckeyes last year. But Judkins, being a running back and having a certain amount of mileage and a certain amount of length on the tires, this is a guy who led Ohio State with 1,060 yards this year, 194 carries, by far the most on the team, but also by far the least amount he's ever had in a season. And so he is off to the NFL. 3 productive years in college, 3 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, and he was exactly what Ohio State needed this year. And, when the subject was sort of broached to TreVeyon Henderson, I think it was not an immediate yes, but it was a pretty immediate yes, because I think the benefits of this were fairly obvious when you looked at, this is going to be a 16-game season, substantially longer than you've had at any point in basically college football history. And when you're a running back and you're being asked to sort of carry the load by yourself, like TreVeyon Henderson has been the last few years, or Quinshon Judkins was at Ole Miss, you get banged up over the course of the season. You get banged up over the course of 13 games, let alone 16, and let alone especially 16 where you've got to be at your best at the end of the season. So the benefit of bringing Quinshon Judkins in, it was pretty obvious from the beginning, but I was still surprised at how big of a difference it made in terms of how fresh he looked at the end of the year, how fresh TreVeyon Henderson looked at the end of the year. Both of those guys had like 70-yard plays in the semifinals and the finals, one each. Those are plays where you didn't see that out of TreVeyon Henderson late in the year in the previous seasons, because he was always kind of banged up and he had an injury here and this was a little sore here, and it having those guys so fresh when everyone else in the field is not at 100% and is not as well rested as either of those guys were. That is something that shows up as clearly as anything you could really see on a football field. Just how fast Quinshon Judkins was on that 70-yard run in the national championship game. How fast TreVeyon Henderson was in that semifinal, that screen right before halftime in the Cotton Bowl. That's it. Like, that's why you bring in a Quinshon Judkins, and boy, they are happy they did it.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Quinshon Judkins this year after over 20 to 25 to 30 touches per game in his 2 years at Ole Miss, to basically half that almost this year, just 13, 14 touches, 15 touches a game. And you saw, as you said, at the end of the season, all throughout the playoffs, TreVeyon Henderson has never looked like this late in the season, and sharing the carries and the load with Quinshon Judkins helped make that happen. And so they were perfect for each other. Judkins with 5.5 yards per carry, his best since his freshman year, 5.7. He had 22 catches for 161 yards, 2 touchdowns, including a touchdown in the national championship game. So he's a valuable receiver there. You could say the same thing about TreVeyon Henderson. I think he had 27 catches for 280-some yards receiving. And it's pretty good when you're a running back and you're averaging over 10 yards a catch, as Henderson did. But these two guys worked really, really well together. You saw Henderson start the season out as the starter, and then later in the season it was Quinshon Judkins, and then it was Henderson in the championship game. And so now these guys both go out as really, really productive college running backs. Henderson finishes with 2,000-yard seasons in his career, and Judkins with 3. And we'll see where they end up in the draft. Go ahead and throw some guesses out for the running backs in the NFL draft, because I've got none for you. Like, Henderson has all of the explosion you could ever want. Judkins has, just always been productive, but I don't know. Does that mean second round? Does that mean fourth round? Probably somewhere in there for those guys. And then Tom, because when we talk about somebody leaving, we got to talk about, well, what does that mean for the future of the Ohio State football program and the 2025 season spring football.
Time's going fast. It's not going quite that fast.
Not quite that fast, but soon. Spring football will be breaking here in the not too distant future. And right now you've got a young bunch of Ohio State running backs with a second-year player, James Peoples. I'm trying to think if he actually played enough this season to burn his red shirt. And then, of course, you're bringing in three true freshmen, but they did go into the portal to get C.J. Donaldson from West Virginia. So that's five guys, which is what they want. The veteran of C.J. Donaldson being the experience that they need. I don't see this as C.J. Donaldson is definitely starting next year. I think James Peoples, when you watch him, to me, he's a 1,500-yard back. If he's the guy, like if he were to be the workhorse, but also having now watched Quinshon Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson share the load perfectly, like he's seen the benefits of sharing the football with another running back.
For sure. And Peoples did play in 7 regular season games this year. So he is a sophomore. He's a true sophomore this upcoming season. But I think this year, coming into the 2024 season, it was beneficial to have a couple veteran running backs who had been multi-year starters and who had seen this is what it really means. Like, yeah, you always want to be the guy who's, the bell cow running back is what they always used to call him. But, the guy who gets 20, 25 carries a game. That's great. Once you've actually seen what that really means and what you feel like in mid-November when you are that guy, then it's a little easier to see, okay, here's the benefit of maybe having another guy and splitting those carries a little bit more. So having a couple veterans on the team this year probably helped make that decision a little easier for both of them. Now, having James Peoples see what that did for those two guys, I think that probably helps make that decision a little bit easier. And I don't know that it's going to be a 50-50 split like it was with Henderson and Judkins, where they finished with like 35 or 40 yards apart in terms of total yardage. But it's, if you can just split it, even if it's a 60-40 split or a 65-35 split, something like that, that just helps. And you've got other true freshmen who are coming in this year as well. I think they've got three true freshman running backs coming in addition to Donaldson. So you're going to have 4 new faces in that running back room. All of that, those guys are going to, someone in that group is going to end up getting at least kind of James Peoples level carries this year. And Peoples finished with 49 carries, 197 yards. You look at the numbers and it's only 4 yards a carry, but you got to think about, when was he in there? He was in there with the second team offensive line, the third team offensive line, at a time when the opponent knows they're just trying to run out the clock, and you're probably not going to get the ball. You're not going to get a shot over your head very often. So the safeties come down and you're really playing run defense first, second, and third at that point. So, those numbers are never particularly shiny. But I think you've got now, bringing in Donaldson certainly helps with giving you another good, solid veteran, physically ready for this kind of option. And then they've got 3 really talented running backs. I'm very interested to see what Bo Jackson looks like this fall. I think he's someone who might be ready to take on at least some kind of a role on that offense. But either way, you're getting, like I said earlier, you're getting the benefit, the wisdom of someone who has seen the benefit of splitting those carries without having to go through the, running into the brick wall 250 times to figure it out.
Well, and C.J. Donaldson has done that same thing. He split carries throughout his career at West Virginia, so he understands that as well. And if you look at what Henderson and Judkins were able to do as the season went on, like TreVeyon averaged 8.9 yards per carry the first month of the season. Of course, you're going to. It's a terrible schedule. Quinshon Judkins averaged 8.3 yards per carry the first 4 games of the month. And then you get into October, and Judkins really struggled. He was just at 3.8 yards per carry. But in November, it was up to 4.3 yards per carry. And then in December and January, the postseason, he was up to 5.4 yards per carry. It was his best mark since the first month of the season. Then you look at Henderson, from 8.9 yards per carry in the first month against the non-conference schedule. That was, easy. October, he's at 5.6 yards per carry. November, he's at 6.6 yards per carry. And then in the playoffs, he's 7.4 yards per carry. They just got better and better because they were fresh and they were able to be quicker and faster than the defenses they were facing and stronger. And they ran through contact and they did a fantastic job. So now that will become the role of James Peoples, Bo Jackson, C.J. Donaldson, Isaiah West, and Turbo Rogers, and we'll see if they go into the portal for anybody else after this. Maybe they want another veteran. I think they like the talent that they have, and anytime you bring in more veterans, you've just spent all of this time recruiting these three young guys. A veteran might sort of scare one or somebody away, and you don't necessarily want to do that. So there you go. Quinshon Judkins off to the NFL. Not unexpected. You got to get there for a running back. It's hugely important to get that second contract so you get that first contract started as soon as you can. So there you go. Before you go, if you could hit the thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching, would appreciate that. Hit the bell to be notified and sign up for the channel if you've not yet done so. And of course, continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com right now. For the time being, if you would like some championship confetti while we have it, you can get some at BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can sign up, become a member, and we will try and find the thread that says championship confetti. We gathered up a whole bunch of confetti from the game afterwards, and we're sending that out to members who want that. You have to become a Buckeye Huddle member. Check it out there. Sign up. First month just $4.99, and we can help you out. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.